Thank you, and welcome to the Briefcase, where we talk all things business, investing, and real estate. Today, we're going to be talking about one of the most underrated wealth building assets in real estate. These are duplexes. Let's get into it. Let me ask you a question. What if your first real estate deal didn't just cost you money, but actually paid you to live there? Not in some guru fantasy, not in a buy my course kind of way, but in a very real, very repeatable, and an IRS approved way. Today we're talking about duplexes. And if you understand this one asset class deeply, not just what it is, but how it works financially, strategically, and psychologically, you might realize something slightly uncomfortable. Most people are playing real estate on hard mode for absolutely no reason. What exactly is a duplex? Let's strip this down to the basics. A duplex is a single property with two separate living units. That's it. Two kitchens, two entrances, two tenants, or one tenant and you. But here's where it gets interesting. From a legal and financial standpoint, a duplex is still considered residential real estate, not commercial, which means you get access to lower interest rates, lower down payments, and easier loan qualification. But from a cash flow standpoint, you now have two income streams instead of one. That's the entire game. It's a hybrid asset. It behaves like a baby apartment complex, but gets treated like a single family home. In that gap, that's where the opportunity lives. Why duplexes are so powerful. Most people think real estate wealth comes from buying big properties, apartment complexes, office buildings, and massive portfolios. And eventually, sure, but almost no one starts there. Duplexes sit in this perfect middle ground. More income than a single family, less complexity than a large multifamily, and a low barrier to entry than commercial. But the real power isn't just financial, it's strategic. A duplex lets you live in one unit while renting out the other, which reduces or eliminates your housing cost, which leads us to the most powerful concepts in real estate. House hacking explained. House hacking sounds like something you'd get arrested for, but it's actually just basic math. You buy a duplex, you live in one side, and you rent out the other. That rent helps cover your mortgage, sometimes partially, sometimes fully, and occasionally, if the numbers are right, it covers more than your mortgage, meaning you get paid to live there. Let that sit for a second. While most people are paying rent or paying a mortgage or even both, you're building equity while someone else helps fund it. It's not magic. It's leverage applied intelligently. And the reason this works is because lenders view the property differently than you do to them. It's owner-occupied residential housing. To you, it's an all-income producing asset disguised as a home. That difference changes everything. The financial anatomy of a duplex. Let's talk numbers, because this is where most people either get excited or quietly back away. Imagine a duplex purchase. The price, 400 grand. The down payment, 3.5% FHA, 14 grand. Loan amount, 386 grand. The monthly costs, the mortgage is 2,600. Taxes and insurance, 400, which makes the total 3 grand a month. Now let's say each unit rents out for 1,600. That's 3,200 total rent. If you live in one unit, so you pay 3 grand, you collect 1,600. Your net housing cost is 1,400, which is already a win. But if you move out later and rent out both units, the income is 3,200, while expenses are 3 grand. That's a cash flow of $200 a month. That's not life-changing, but that's also not the point, because real wealth in duplexes comes down to four things: cash flow, appreciation, loan paydown, and tax benefits. Most people only look at number one. Professionals look at all four. Financing strategies for duplexes. This is where duplexes quietly outperform almost every other entry-level investment because you don't need 20% down. You can use FHA loans, 3.5% down, best for first-time buyers, although you must live in one unit. Then, conventional loans, 5 to 15% down, slightly stricter, but still very accessible. And finally, VA loans. These are 0% down. If you qualify, this is almost unfair. And here's the key detail most people miss. You can use projected rental income to help qualify, meaning the bank doesn't just look at your salary. They look at the property's ability to generate income. That's a massive shift because now the asset helps you by itself. Cash flow versus appreciation on duplexes. Let's clear up a common misconception. A duplex is not always going to make you rich through cash flow alone. In fact, in many markets, it won't. And that's okay, because real estate wealth is rarely about one metric. Think of it like this. Cash flow equals short-term income. Appreciation equals long-term wealth. If your duplex breaks even or slightly cash flows, appreciates at 3 to 5% annually, and gets paid down over time, you're building equity in 3 different directions simultaneously. That's the real engine. And duplexes let you start the engine earlier with less capital. Tax advantages for duplexes. Now, we get into the part people either love or completely ignore: taxes. The tax code is heavily biased towards asset owners, especially real estate owners. With a duplex, you can depreciate the property, even if it's increasing in value. You can write off a portion of it every year. Then you can deduct expenses like repairs, maintenance, property management, insurance, and mortgage interest. This is allocated between personal and rental use. If you live in one unit, you split the deductions proportionately, which means even your home is partially tax advantaged. And when structured correctly, your taxable income can look dramatically different from your actual income. That's not a loophole. That's the system working exactly as designed. Risk factors and mistakes for duplexes. Now, before this starts sounding like a perfect strategy, let's talk reality. Duplexes are powerful, but they're not passive. There's tenant risk. You're only one wall away from your tenant. Choose poorly and you'll immediately feel it. Then there's vacancy risk. If one unit is empty, your numbers change fast. Then maintenance. 2 units equals more wear and tear. Then overestimating rent. This is the silent deal killer. Optimism is expensive. Always underwrite conservatively. And one more mistake that doesn't get talked about enough is buying emotionally. It looks nice. It's not a financial strategy. Run the numbers, then run them again, then assume something goes wrong, and see if it still works. Scaling from duplexes. Here's where things get interesting. A duplex is rarely the end goal. It's the entry point, because once you understand tenant management, learn how to analyze deals, build equity, and improve your borrowing profile, you can scale. A duplex to a triplex, to a fourplex, to a small apartment, to commercial. And the skill set transfers. The only thing that changes is the numbers on doors, the level of complexity, and the size of the opportunity. But the foundation is all the same. That's built right here. Quick fun fact about duplexes that might completely change how you look at them. Did you know that some of the wealthiest real estate investors didn't start with massive apartment complexes? They started with duplexes. In fact, a duplex is one of the only properties where you can live in one unit, rent out the other, and have your tenant pay a huge check, or sometimes all of your mortgage. That's called house hacking, and it's one of the fastest ways regular people quietly build wealth. But here's the part most people don't realize: a duplex is valued differently than a single family home. It's based more on income potential than just comparable sales. So by simply increasing rent even a little, you can actually force appreciation and raise the value of your property. That means you're not just waiting for the market to go up, you're actively creating equity. And that's exactly why so many investors say duplexes are the most underrated entry point into real estate wealth. Thank you for sticking with the briefcase today. If you found any of that information about duplexes confusing or insightful, make sure to comment down below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. And remember, stay smart.